Hello everyone, my name is Michael SK, and welcome back to Saya no Uta. So in the last episode, we saw a alternative ending. I don't think it's the true ending by any means, but we basically saw what would have happened if Fuminori decided that he actually wanted to go back to reality. But the actuality of all that was that he was hesitant. He wasn't sure what he wanted. And that hesitancy that he had kind of brought him to a downfall. He was basically seen as an insane man and locked up in a white room for the rest of his life, most likely. So that didn't turn out as well as it could have, but also he literally did just kill a guy in the last episode. So there's also that. Returning to humanity is probably not a viable option for him anymore, which sucks, but it is what it is. So we will continue along and actually select that he does not need his humanity anymore. On that terrible day when I first opened my eyes after the accident, what would my answer have been? When I think back on this many years from now, will I wish that my answer today had been different? It doesn't matter. Here at this moment, there is no doubt in my mind. I asked Saya, looking at the unidentifiable pieces of the monster. Yeah, even I forgot his name. You know, it's actually kind of depressing. I don't know if I talked about it a few episodes ago. The dude was just living a normal life as a house husband and all that. Or whatever he was. He did nothing wrong. I mean, all he did, and it's understandable and totally human, is voice an opinion to his neighbor. Totally understandable. He didn't do anything wrong, and he was led to such a terrible fate. He was brought into a world that he didn't understand, killed his family because of it, and in his madness started doing what he did in the last episode, or 2 episodes ago, technically. So, what a downfall for that guy, when we're talking about downfalls. He was hardly a stranger. We've been neighbors for as long as I can remember. I'd go as far as to say that we were on good terms before the accident. And now I've killed him with my own 2 hands. I feel little. Mr. Suzumi, the kindly painter who lived next door, is but a distant memory. The pieces of meat around me belong to a creature whose mere existence was nauseating. Only by killing the vermin could I find relief. He complained about my yard being filthy, the swine. It doesn't matter what Saya did. He wasn't worth keeping alive anyway. Alright. See, that's another sign of loss of humanity, loss of morals. Like, we're just so disconnected. These are my honest feelings. My hands are wet with another man's blood, and yet I am utterly calm. Now I know what I lost in the accident. Saya says that I can take it back, but I know that I cannot. It is gone forever, like the life of the man called Suzumi.
Fuminori? Oh.
Saya looks away, her expression unreadable. Everything is monstrous and loathsome in my eyes. Everything but Saya. I thought that she was somehow unique. I was wrong. I see her just as I do everything else, as something other than what she really is. But why should that surprise me? Saya is part of my world, just as I am part of hers. It doesn't change what we are to each other. I stand and walk over to Suzumi's dismembered corpse. I finally realize that even though the stench of these monsters' flesh turns my stomach, their blood and guts smell pretty good. In fact, I know this fragrance quite well. I retrieve the cleaver, pick up a piece of Suzumi's body, and start removing the skin and tendons. Just as I thought. The stuff underneath is exactly the same as what Saya and I have been eating.
うまそうだし食べちゃおうか。
ふみのり。
あ、ごめん。今はそんな気分になれないよね。でも死んじゃえば肉は肉だし、捨てるのももったいないと思わないか。また冷蔵庫にしまっておこうよ。
あなたはいいの？
いいよ。
I answer easily. There is no longer any room for doubt in my mind.
あと隣の家に奥さんと娘さんがいるはずなんだ。旦那がいなくなったら騒ぐかもしれないし、通報される前に飼っとこうと思うんだが。
Oh my god.
そんな風であなたはいいの？
Saya asks again, this time with a trace of fear in her voice. I guess I still haven't convinced her of my sincerity.
さっきの漫画の話だとね、人でないものを愛した男は最後に自分が人間であることをやめて恋を成就させるんだ。ハッピーエンドだよ。だろ？
ふみのり。
さやと一緒にいられるのなら僕はもう何もいらない。何もかもこのままでいい。
Tossing the knife and meat aside, I pull Saya into my arms once more.
もう言ってもいいよね。さや、君のこと愛してる。
As Saya wipes away the tears flowing from her eyes, I can no longer see any hint of fear in her face.
あなたのこと後悔させたくないのに。なのに。
I have sworn my oath, and Saya has accepted it. We have nothing to fear now. Saya will never need to cry again.
でも嬉しい。私って身勝手だよね。
身勝手でいいよ。さやのわがままなら聞くよ、僕は。
Filled with contentment, we exchange a smile and set to the task of cleaning the room. A single person produces a lot more meat than I expected. Speaking of which, I seem to remember doing something similar before.
あとの2人だけど、多分おじさんが殺してる。悲鳴とか聞こえたし。
そうか。そりゃ好都合だ。
After we finish here, we should go gather the meat from the Suzumi house. That should be enough to hold us for a while, and we can use the refrigerator to store what won't fit in ours. It's all coming together. Saya and I will be just fine. Yeah, I highly doubt that. Like, I really
この
doubt
写
that.
真知ってる？
Because all it takes is another person to come by, call the police, or call somebody. It's all about a hint of suspicion that something is wrong. Doesn't matter how wrong or in what way it is wrong, it's just something's not right. After we finish our labors and get into bed, I show Saya what I found in Ogaya's house.
この1枚見覚えがあるよ。確かにさやの知ってる場所。
The photograph that Saya has selected is the one with a Tochigi prefecture address on the back.
これは家だよね。それと木と山。
そう。ふみのりすごいね。写真も見られるようになった？
まあね。
At the outset of my ordeal, I had to depend entirely on my sense of distance to decipher what I saw. The house is in front of me, the mountains far behind them, the clouds high above. Only distance and scale told me what they were. Photographs and other flat images used to be nearly impossible to make out. Recently, however, I've gotten better at understanding what things are by their shape. I know what the mountains and sky look like, for instance, and how to tell them apart from buildings. Each of the 3 pictures shows a similar scene, a lone house in the middle of a thick forest.
パパはね、別荘だって言ってた。ここにいれば誰にも見つからないって。
This is all, really interesting because I was questioning how he was able to discern a lot of things whenever he was searching around there. It looks like he's being able to figure out what is what based on shape, and maybe some other qualities that he's just subconsciously putting together. He's putting all the gross shit in the back of his mind and trying to bring out the actuality of what everything is. Or something like that. It sounds good enough to be true. I'll roll with it. It helps for plot purposes. Judging by the address on the back of each photo, they probably are excellent places to hide from prying eyes, but why 3? The dates are pretty old, and it seems odd that they were all taken within a few days of each other. Maybe he was scouting properties looking for the perfect location for his hideaway. Saya recognizes only one of the houses, so that must be the one Ogae picked. Checking the location on a road map of the Kanto area, I find that it's about 3 hours out of Tokyo by car.
お父さんがここにいる可能性は？
電話してみたけど出なかったよ。多分いないと思う。
でも最近に立ち寄ったことはあるかもしれないよね。
The way I see it, our only hope of finding Ogae is to follow whatever lead we have, no matter how small. The probability that his hideout will yield useful information may be low, but it's not 0.
明日にでも行ってみようかな、ここ。
Saya pouts. I wasn't expecting her to object.
でもここ遠いんでしょ？
行って調べて帰ってきても、まあ半日もあれば十分さ。
その間、さやはお留守番なの？
So that's what it is. Slightly exasperated, I smile and rub Saya's head.
少しは我慢してくれよ。な？そやだってお父さんのこと見つけたいんだろ。
うん。
After a brief silence, during which her expression is hard to decipher, Saya looks up to me and says,
ねえ、ふみのり。パパのことはもういいよ。
Why?
え？
That's the last thing I expected her to say.
いいって、でも君のお父さんだろ？心配じゃないのか？
いいの。私にはもうふみのりがいるし。
Saya says, coming closer to feel my warmth.
パパって言っても本当の意味でのお父さんっていうわけじゃないの。
He's kind of like a creator, right?
さやのことを教育してくれたし、ある意味では愛してくれてたのかもしれないけど、でもふみのりの方が優しくてあったかい。
Saya's words make me happy, but I also hear the loneliness in them.
本当に僕だけでもいいのか？
うん。ふみのりは嫌？さやと二人っきりじゃ。
いや、でも、そうだな。やっぱり大貝教授には会ってみたい。
Having finally figured out how to explain my feelings, I continue.
さやのことをもっとよく知りたいから、僕以外にさやのことを知ってる人がいるなら、ぜひ会ってみたい。
そうなんだ。
Saya doesn't seem upset, but she does tilt her head quizzically, as though my thoughts are strange to her.
それに、やっぱり明日この場所に行ってみよう。
Another plan has started to form in my head, one separate from the search for Dr. Ogae. If I find the doctor there, great. If I don't, well, I think I can find another use for his mountain retreat.
さや、寂しいかもしれないけど、ちょっと我慢して待っててくれ。
She nods and then looks questioningly into my eyes. Excuse me.
やっぱりふみのりにはさ、家族とか友達とかもっともっと大勢いた方がいいのかな。
そりゃその方が楽しいだろうね。
Fearing that Saya will start sulking, I hurriedly add,
でも勘違いしないでくれよ。たとえそういう人たちに囲まれて暮らしてたとしても、さやだけは僕にとって特別な一人なんだからね。
ありがとう。
Giggling, Saya rubs her cheeks against mine.
さやもふみのりが喜びそうなこと、ふみのりのためだけに頑張るからね。
I wonder what that entails. Well, back to school. Today, all of Koji's classes were in the morning. On his way to meet Yo for lunch after his final lecture, Koji suddenly gets a call in the middle of the hallway. Without thinking, he reaches to his belt for his new camera phone, but curses when he realizes that the ringtone is coming from the old phone in his bag. He hasn't transferred his contacts list yet, and calls still come to his old phone from people who don't know the new number. When he finally fishes the phone from his bag, the name he sees on the display sends a chill up his spine. Fuminori. Why now? What does he want? It's hard to be happy about a call from Fuminori after the incident at the Ogai house.
はい。
いや、コージ。今日はもう講義はないよな。
ああ。
Of course, Fuminori would know that Koji is free on Thursday afternoons.
相談がある。駐車場に来てくれないか。
今すぐにか。
あ、待ってる。
Fuminori hangs up without another word. What's gotten into him? What does he want? Koji wonders as he sticks the phone into his jacket pocket. The sudden change is disturbing after a week of Fuminori avoiding both Koji and Yo. Maybe he's finally ready to talk, in which case Koji should probably consider this a good thing. However, he can't shake the feeling that something is wrong. Oh, your feeling is like dead set,
待たせた
brother.
か。
いいや。
In the parking lot, Koji finds Fuminori leaning against the fender of Koji's car. The last time they met was in the darkness of an abandoned house. This is the first time in over a week that they've spoken face to face in the light. Perhaps that is why Koji senses something strange in Fuminori's expression. He's not sure what exactly, but something has changed.
前にも話したと思うが、僕は今、オーガイっていう人についていろいろと調べなきゃならない。
そうらしいな。
それがな、ここに来ていろいろと難しくなってきたんだ。やっぱり、僕一人じゃ無理かもなって。
Fuminori seems more relaxed than before. He used to be tense all the time, like he was terrified of something, but now his expression is calm. He's even wearing what resembles a sheepish grin.
で、お前にも手伝ってほしいんだ、コウジ。
Nevertheless, some instinct is telling Koji that Fuminori's changes are not for the better.
一体どういう風の吹き回しだ。
Koji asks, keeping his expression neutral to conceal his suspicion, excuse me.
だって、お前も関心あるんだろ、コウジ。
Fuminori responds coolly, his smile unreadable as ever, and offers no glimpse of his true motives.
お前も僕の後から、オーガイ教授の家をいろいろと探し回ってたじゃないか。
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, did we really find anything from Koji's perspective?
僕とお前とでバラバラに探すなんて二度手間だよ。どうせなら協力してもっと効率的にやろう。
Why? Why does he sense malice, thick and vicious, lurking behind Fuminori's smile?
ともかく今日は足が必要なんだ。車を出してくれないか。
まあ、構わんが。
It's gonna be a little bit of a drive. Fuminori's car was destroyed in the accident, so Koji isn't surprised that he needs a lift. Koji unlocks his car and gestures for Fuminori to take the passenger seat, and then gets behind the wheel and starts the engine.
で、どこに行くんだ。
栃木の北の方、那須高原の近所だな。
栃木？
Koji can't believe his ears.
住所はこれだ。この
Fuminori
建物を探
says,
してほしい。
handing Koji a photo with an address on the back. He seriously expects to be driven over 100 kilometers and back? Koji doesn't know whether to be angry or impressed.
今から出発すれば夕方頃には着くだろう。
まあ、そうかもしれんが。
Koji sighs heavily, tapping the steering wheel as he calms himself down. Now that he's come this far, the only thing he can do is see his friend's craziness through to the end.
別荘か何かか、これは。
I mean, it's all we can do, to be honest.
多分そこに大貝教授もいるらしい。
Koji isn't looking forward to meeting the owner of that creepy house, but he's even more uneasy about letting Fuminori go alone. Ah, friendship. It looks like he just has to grin and bear it.
東京に戻るのは夜中かもな。
悪いな、世話をかけて。
いいさ。
Koji drives out of the parking lot, leaving the rest of what he thought to say unspoken. It's for the best. Fuminori's smile seems wrong somehow, like a mask hiding his true face. Well, everybody wears a mask, you know? Yo finds herself sitting alone in the cafeteria, searching for a familiar face as her lunch cools on the table in front of her. She was hoping to see Koji today, but he must have had other plans. That wouldn't be all unusual. Normally Omi and Fuminori would pick up the slack. But Omi and Fuminori aren't here anymore. Yo puts down her chopsticks, her appetite ruined by the lack of company, and by the anxiety eating at her. Omi is missing, Fuminori has turned on her, and she has no idea why. If Koji were here, she could count on him to distract her with some idle conversation. Now that she is all by herself, Yo becomes keenly aware of how little tolerance she has for her loneliness. She begins to feel paranoid, like the whole world is plotting to take from her everything that she cherishes, What is going on here? Where has Omi gone? She's left the world of the living, I can tell you that much. Is Fuminori really unrelated to her disappearance? Or is he the key to this mystery, as Koji and Dr. Tanbo suspect? Yo recalls the events of last Thursday alone without an outlet for her pain after Fuminori verbally eviscerated her. That is quite the exaggeration in how that all went down. I mean, it wasn't great, but I wouldn't really call it like a verbal anything. It's just, he just stated how he felt. Yo was lucky enough to run into Koji, although he could hardly make her problem go away. His kindness was a comfort. At the same time, Omi was on her way to Fuminori's house, and she hasn't been heard from since. Yo has only been aware of Fuminori's connection to Omi's disappearance since yesterday, when Koji revealed the truth during their visit to the hospital. What if? A new possibility occurs to her. A reason for why Omi suddenly decided to visit Fuminori. What if it hadn't been a coincidence that Yo ran into Koji that day? What if Koji and Omi had known what transpired between her and Fuminori, and had decided to act separately? Omi might have seen the confrontation in the courtyard. She might have been eavesdropping. If not, or it's not unthinkable. As the idea forms in her mind, Yo feels as though something is tearing apart her body from the inside. It's only a possibility, but if it's true, then whatever happened to Omi is Yo's responsibility too, isn't it? Yo clutches her head, groaning in agony. I'm sure that looks great in the cafeteria. The food on her tray is now cold, not that she would have eaten it anyway. Despite her frustration and anxiety, Yo is unable to act on her own. She has never been good at adapting to challenges, and no one would ever call her proactive. She hasn't the slightest idea how to respond to the situation. If Omi were here, she would probably tell Yo to think positive and trust her instincts. Yo has always depended on her best friend's energy. Now that Omi is gone, Yo realizes just how weak and useless she is. She can only sink deeper and deeper into the abyss of self-loathing. The sudden ringing of her phone pulls her back from the brink of despair. It's a text message. There's no title, and the sender is... What? Yo cries out in shock. The message itself is even more baffling. If you want to know about Sakisaka Fuminori, come to his house alone. Tell no one. That's like a setup right there. Oh, hey, it says Nitro Plus on the back of her phone. That's cool. The message bears no trace of Omi's personality, but Yo can't deny that it was sent from her phone. She takes a deep breath to calm herself before typing her reply, taking care that excitement doesn't cause her fingers to slip. Is that you, Omi? Where are you? Yo presses send. The screen shows that her message was received. As she waits for a reply, her mind fills with questions. Is someone else using Omi's phone to send text messages? If so, why to her? Something suddenly occurs to her. She and Omi have exchanged countless messages over the years, many of which contain the sort of embarrassing confessions that close girlfriends share. At times, when her feelings for Fuminori grew too strong to contain, Yo often put them into words for Omi to read. Did Omi put a password on her phone? Even if she had, the person who sent the message was obviously able to unlock it, which means that whoever it has full access to her history. Do you want to know about Sakisaka Fuminori? Yo reads the strange message one more time. Whoever sent it must believe that Yo has an interest in Fuminori. The phone rings again, startling Yo, but she quickly recovers and looks at the screen. There's no title, and the sender is still Takahata Omi. I'll tell you everything when we meet. Come alone, tell no one. It's not Omi. She would never try to scare Yo with such a mean-spirited prank. Anxiety has brought Yo almost to tears. Her mind isn't made to deal with this. Who was using Omi's phone and promising to reveal Fuminori's secrets? Who? Yo desperately wants advice from Koji, from anyone. She even starts to dial Koji's cell, but a sudden suspicion stops her. The sender might be somewhere nearby, watching her at this very moment. A cold chill runs down her spine as she looks furtively around the cafeteria. Come alone, tell no one. The lifeless characters on the screen are like a knife against her throat. However, Yo clutches her phone and forces her heart to stop pounding. Isn't this cowardice exactly what she hates most about herself? Doesn't she want to know what she's capable of? Doesn't she want to do more than sit and wait? Yo realizes that her hand is shaking. How easy it would be to just give in to her cowardice, to convince herself that Omi and Fuminori are beyond her reach. That is what she truly wants, even if it means abandoning dignity and loyalty. She wants to flee from the unknown. But she also knows that even escape is beyond her. Yo understands herself well. She knows that no matter how far she runs, regret and self-loathing will consume her after everything else has fallen apart. In the end, Yo is unable to overcome her cowardice alone. She lacks both the willpower and the courage to run. Okay, so I'm not gonna, go out there and say that she's about to die or anything like that. I don't think that she is as disposable as her friend may have been. We didn't get to know her as well, but Yo here seems to be a little bit more of an important character than to just immediately kill. So now what I'm wondering is what Saya is planning. It sort of seems like her and Fuminori are on two different pages here. Saya is trying to accomplish something without letting Fuminori know, and Fuminori is letting Saya know what he's trying to do, but he's not letting her know exactly how he's going about it, like having his friend be involved. So there's a little bit of miscommunication that could kind of lead to things being a little muddy, maybe? I don't know. The afternoon silence is somehow forbidding. A stink is in the air, the stink of garbage left out to rot. Even this perfectly normal residential neighborhood seems ominous to Yo in her current state. She feels like she's standing in the middle of a what the fuck is that word? Necropolis? Yeah, words. As if everyone in the house around her is dead. Yo pushes her fear aside and presses the buzzer on the Sakisaka house's front gate. Fuminori wasn't in class today. Is he home? He couldn't have sent those awful messages, could he? She doesn't even want to consider the possibility, so she forces the unwelcome thought from her mind. There's no response from the intercom. Isn't it disconnected? Yo doesn't know, of course, that Omi stood in the same spot 1 week ago, staring at the silent intercom with the same confusion that Yo is now experiencing. She, however, is not forced to wait as Omi was. The phone in her pocket rings, catching her off guard. It's another text message from Omi's phone. Come in, the door is open. Yo looks around quickly, a shiver running through her as she realizes that she's being watched. Searching fearfully for her observer, Yo spots movement out of the corner of her eye. On the second floor of the Sakisaka house, a tightly drawn window curtain just fluttered. The person who sent the messages is inside the house. Only now does Yo realize that every other window has its storm shutters closed. No matter what happens inside, no one will ever know. This time, she nearly gives in to the intense urge to flee. But the terror she feels toward her invisible watcher is stronger and will not permit her to turn back upon the open window. She has nowhere to run. Yo bursts into tears, unable to take a single step. The phone in her hand rings again, demanding that she enter. She steps through the gate. Oh boy, I wonder what's about to happen. Again, I don't think it's going to be death, but I do have to wonder what it's going to be. When she enters the house, an overwhelming stench assaults her nostrils. The house is dark, even though it's in the middle of the day. Fuminori must be out, as his shoes are not in the vestibule. However, Yo catches sight of a different pair stuffed behind the shoe cupboard. They look familiar, so she pulls them out of the shadows for a closer look. As soon as she recognizes them, her mind tries desperately to deny reality. It's Omi's. They are identical to Omi's favorite shoes. Yo has seen her wearing them many times before, but that doesn't mean Omi is here. She tells herself, and they might belong to someone else. Someone who bought the same shoes from the same store. There's no way Omi could be here. Is there? With a sudden flash of clarity, Yo presses the most frequently used speed dial button on the phone in her tightly clenched fist. The phone dials Omi's number. It only takes a second for the signal to reach the nearest relay station, and then... Oh, Jesus. Why did that scare me? I think it's because of the CG here. A familiar ringtone echoes through the house. It's coming from the second floor. Someone must still be up there in the room with the moving curtains. Omi's phone rings for just a few moments, and then it stops, as whoever is holding it realizes Yo's intentions. For the first time, Yo feels the definite presence of her formless guide.
誰ですか?
She gathers her courage and calls out into the house, but there is no response. Whoever it is must not want to be seen. Swallowing hard, Yo walks down the hallway to the staircase. Maybe it's Omi. Maybe it's Fuminori. Surely it's just the two of them playing a prank on her. Koji might even be here with them. Yo's mind fills with comforting messages of her friends, She needs to believe that there is still hope. Otherwise, she could not take another step.
おみちゃんだよね。咲坂くんだよね。
There's a lot of suspenseful moments I've noticed in this. As she climbs the stairs one at a time, Yo calls out in a voice choked with tears. When they see her sobbing, they'll probably laugh at her. Let them. It would be the happiest moment of her life. She just wants this torment to end. She tries to move faster, but her trembling legs will not let her. With each agonizing second that passes, she begs for release from this nightmare. And look, they're doing the thing again, where there's so much space left on one side of the CG that they could just have something pop up there. And the last time that happened, it kind of spooked me. Just a little bit. They're doing it again. See, it's like a very similar CG, but they're practically doing it again. After climbing for what seems an eternity, Yo finds herself standing in the second floor hallway. No sound greets her. There is only the gloom brimming with silent malice.
おみちゃん。おみちゃん。
She shuffles forward, calling out in a weak voice.
出てきてよ。お願いだよ。こんなのもうやだよ。
Yeah, I'm worried. The door in front of her is half open. It must lead to the room that overlooks the front gate. Let's go in there. I'm sure it's really fun. Yo watches helplessly from a corner of her mind as her body, seeming to move on its own volition, slowly opens the door. I don't like it when people open doors. I haven't recovered from Doki Doki Literature Club. That one really fucked me up. For no reason either. The room is empty. The damp, stinking air clings to Yo's skin. She is at her limit, unable to take a single step more. Her spirit has been utterly crushed. Perhaps this is the moment her tormentor was waiting for. Suddenly, the thing releases its grip on her breasts and pulls out from under her bra. Yo falls to the floor, unable to support herself on her unresponsive legs. The creature that grabbed her is still here, lurking in a dark corner of the room. She can feel it watching her, but can't bring herself to turn around. She knows that seeing it will likely destroy the last vestiges of her sanity. From close by comes the beeping, or the beep of buttons being pressed. Yo hears a cheerful electronic sound terribly out of place in this room, and sees the phone in her hand blink coldly. A new text message has arrived. She is powerless to stop herself from reading the characters on the screen. You're pretty, and your breasts are so big and soft. I bet they're good for attracting males. Haha, yeah, well. Now she has her answer. The messages from Omi's phone were sent by the thing that just mauled her breasts. Yo curls up into a tiny sobbing ball, unable to raise her voice or even move. The creature makes a burbling sound. Yo somehow understands that it is laughing at her. That must be how you tempted Fuminori. You tried to steal him from me, didn't you? Thief. Okay, I see what's going on here now. Are we done here? Nope, we are not. I won't kill you. Though her mind is now barely functioning, Yo hears a voice whisper to her inside her head. It is a girl's voice, sweet and sinister, with the cruel innocence of a child gleefully plucking the wings from butterflies. Instead, I'll let you share in our happiness. Rejoice, Yo, we'll love you to death. The soft voice is a stark contrast to the unyielding strength that drives irresistibly into Yo's core. The pain is sharp and savage, greater than anything that she has ever felt before. It should be unbearable, but there is no longer enough left of Yo's mind to recognize it as pain. Oh. While she stares blankly as the thing slithering deeper and deeper in her body, an idle thought floats through her fading consciousness. Sorry, there's just a lot to take in here. I've still never been kissed, have I? Well, there's a first for everything, Yo. I'll tell you that much. It has begun to snow by the time they pass Utsunomiya on the Tohoku Expressway. I'm trying my hardest here, gang. In the passenger seat, Fuminori is gazing out of the frosted window in silence. He's been in this trance-like state for almost an hour now. Taking advantage of his inattention, Koji stares unabashedly at Fuminori from the corner of his eye. He still doesn't understand the danger signals that he's been getting from the man. Fuminori has stopped avoiding Koji, and he's even looking at him in the eye when he talks. So why does he seem even more distant now than he did when he was trying to push his friends away? Fuminori's posture is noticeably relaxed, but his gaze never wavers, not even for a moment. It's as though he is focused on a clearly defined future that has been chosen to bring about, or that he has chosen to bring about, one that has no place for needs or wants of others. Right now, Fuminori is complete. Koji cannot help but feel that beneath his bland exterior is a core of solid steel that no one can touch. Sorry, I don't know how to speak anymore. Koji says suddenly, trying to gauge Fuminori's reaction.
So?
Fuminori replies curtly, still staring into the distance. Fuminori's tone is completely emotionless. Koji might as well have asked him about the weather or the condition of the mountain roads near their destination.
Yeah, 全然.
Fuminori answers in exactly the same tone that he used when Koji first questioned him following Omi's disappearance. Koji's eyes narrow.
そんなことないさ.
Finally, Fuminori shows some emotion. He sounds hurt, like he can't believe Koji could think such a thing?
彼女、僕の家に来る途中でいなくなったんだろ？もちろん僕だって心配だよ。
Sudden frustration wells up inside Koji. If possible, he'd like nothing more than to beat the secrets out of Fuminori's head. Koji is worried sick about Omi. Well, actually, yeah, it is really good to remember that Koji and Omi were seeing each other. So I'm kind of surprised he's gotten more frustrated. But I guess, you know, everybody's an adult here, a young adult. There's maturity levels growing here. To have his concern brushed off so coldly would be unbearable coming from a complete stranger. But from Fuminori, who was his best friend, Fuminori never used to be this callous. Even if Koji tried to interrogate him, he'd probably never find out what changed him so. If Fuminori were still just hiding inside the shell he'd erected around himself after the accident, Koji might have been able to get some answers out of him. With this sly, evasive Fuminori, however, there's nothing Koji can do. Fuminori will never reveal his true intentions, not to anyone. All that's left then is for Koji to discover the truth on his own.
オウミはな、筑波のことでお前に話があったんだ。
Fuminori smiles bitterly at the mention of Tsukuba's name, perhaps feeling sympathy for her pain. To Koji, however, it seems like pity, the sort one directs at an ant or a worm.
筑波さんか。参ったね。まあ。あんなことがあった後だからさ、最近声がかけづらくて。
Unbelievable. If Fuminori's feelings for Yo were really this cold, then he would have rejected her when she first confessed to him, but he didn't. Or at least the Fuminori before the accident didn't. Once again, Koji can't help but wonder if this man, who looks like his friend, is really a different person who only possesses the memories of Sakisaka Fuminori. The snow has stopped falling when they got off the West Nasu Flats interchange. This area must already be getting a lot of snow, however, as the nearby mountains are covered in white beneath the trees. By the time they turn off the highway and enter the mountains, road conditions are already bad enough for Koji to regret having forgotten tire chains. Nevertheless, he continues to power his car up the precarious slopes with only a road map to guide him. Yeah, you guys gotta remember, we don't have no Google Maps or Apple Maps or Waze or anything like that. We basically have, you know, licking our finger and sticking it up to the wind. In places like this, an address isn't enough to pinpoint a location. His only choice is to drive down every road, including private roads that aren't even on the map, while searching for something that matches the photograph.
本当にこんな場所に別荘なんてあるのか？
人目につかないところだからこそ、大貝教授は気に入ったはずなんだ。
You know, a part of me has always wondered, what would it be like to be in a place that is so disconnected from society? Think The Shining? Was that the Stephen King movie and book that involved that family watching over a hotel and they're kind of like trapped in it for like an entire season or something like that? It's something like that, just being on your own in such a private location. No one will know that you're there. No one can see you, as it says here, prying eyes. Do whatever, you're on your own in such a disconnect from society. Let's make it more interesting. No signal, so you can't get in contact with anybody. No internet, so if this is modern, guess what? None of that. No TV even. You are truly in your own world. And you have somehow unlimited resources too. Let's add that in. I've always wondered how it'd be, you know, just spending a week in a situation like that. I don't know. I don't even know why I would ever think of that. But, you know, sometimes people need to get away. There's also that to consider. Maybe you have some books that you want to read. Maybe, you know, bring your iPad or phone with you. And even so you don't have signal, you can download stuff onto it and catch up on some shows. Just an absolute disconnect from everything. Sorry, I totally rambled for no goddamn reason. I do that sometimes. Welcome to Michael S.K. The more he hears about Ogai, the less Koji wants to meet him. Fuminori is the one who spots the narrow road half hidden in the trees. It's practically an animal trail, overgrown with weeds that are tall and strong enough to withstand the weight of the snow.
これ本当に道か？
Koji stops the car and sticks his head out of the window to stare into the dark forest, but he can't see where the path leads through the tightly packed trees.
写真だとどう見える？
Fuminori hands Koji the photo, which he compares to the mountain ridges visible beyond the trees.
なるほどな。アングルは間違いない。
行ってみよう。
Fuminori's tone is as flat as always, but there is a quiet intensity in his voice that leaves no room for argument. Although Koji is worried that his car's suspension won't be able to handle the terrain, there's no turning back now. He shifts into second gear and starts down the frozen road. The sun sets early at high altitudes. As the car creeps up the mountain path, Koji catches glimpses through the trees of the gradually darkening sky. Yeah, getting out of here is gonna suck major ass. The forest is completely still, with no sound save for the rumble of the car's engine and the crackle of snow and brush beneath its tires. Fuminori is once again staring silently through the front window. In the ominous silence, Koji feels the same faint chill that he felt when standing before Ogai's suburban home. It feels wrong, as though he is traveling deeper and deeper into a world not his own. After some time, a blocky shape suddenly appears amid the trees, standing out against the twilight sky. Yeah, that's a house. Koji turns off the engine and compares the structure in front of him to the picture in his hand. A perfect match. Before he can tell Fuminori, however, his friend is already out of the car.
Oi!
Realizing that it's pointless to call out to him, Koji shakes his head, grabs the flashlight from the glove compartment, and follows Fuminori across the snow-covered yard. The photo must not have been taken recently, as the old rundown cabin before them has clearly been left to the mercy of the elements for some time. Okay, goddamn. The front door appears to be locked, but Fuminori kicks it down without a second thought. Koji just watches, knowing that nothing he could say would matter. Well, this is gonna sure be scary in the next episode. I'm fucking done here. Okay, I'll save it off camera because there's straight up nudity in the fucking save menu. Yeah, we'll end it here. Next time we'll explore this creepy ass house. But I think we've had enough content for this episode. We've had a little bit of everything, it sort of seemed like. But no deaths. No deaths. Not this time. But next time, possibly. I don't really know what Saya's plan is with Yo. I don't really know what they could find here in regards to the doctor. But it is getting pretty interesting to see what will come out of everything. There's obviously a mystery to solve as into what Saya is, what that whole situation is with Saya in her world, the world that Fuminori is seeing, and really what this doctor has done. What can come out of everything in the end is truly something I'd like to know. There has to be some sort of happy ending, because that ending that we got last time in Returning to Reality is just, I guess it's an ending, but it's not a good conclusion. There's a lot more that we need to find out. And my curiosity is, oh man, it's there. So thank you all for watching this episode. If you enjoyed, be sure to leave a like, subscribe, all that fancy jazz. And I will see you all in the next one. Hopefully with less of the rape. I'm getting a little annoyed at that. We don't need that every episode, all right?